Welcome to KMS Performance. I'm Kelly McLean and I'm here with Devin Hardy. And today we're going to be going over the install of the KMS 91 Octane power package for the X3. So we have an X3 2018 XRS. Right now everything is stock except for some suspension love. You got MTS suspension on this car. And the customer's looking for some more power, so he decided to go with us. So we're going to go ahead, baseline this car out. Let's look at the air fuels, let's look at the clutch profile, and then get to work. All right, so here we go. Okay, so we got done with the baseline pass, and this is what we're looking at for information. We made 143 horsepower, okay? But more importantly, let's take a look at some other things that are going on here with the car, okay? One, let's look at this air-fuel ratio, okay? So we are pedal to metal on this car, and all the way up to about a little over 50 miles an hour, this car is about 15 to 1 wide open throttle, which that's not good. And then after that, it goes to about 10.5 to 1. Okay, so for longevity purposes, that's really not a good thing to do. Also, we'll take a look at the RPM spectrum. Now, this car, when it first launches, right about here, we're about 7,000 RPM, and then it just continues to build RPM all the way out. And even at, say, 60 miles an hour, we're at 7,500. So these cars, they really want to run, north of 7,800. So this right here, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the first half of the 91 Octane power package and reevaluate this car. So the first half is going to be just the clutch tune. So we're going to go ahead and tune this clutch. So now it's time to go ahead, get the clutch cover off, get the clutches off, and get to work on the bench. So let me show you some shortcuts here. All right, so there's a clamp upstairs right here that I'll loosen up. And then obviously taking out all the screws for the clutch cover itself. So now we can take the clutch cover down and get it out of our way. We're going to go ahead and remove this right here, and that's a 22mm socket. And then install our puller. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and remove the 17mm bolt, or the head of it 17mm, out of the secondary clutch. Careful, there's a washer, and that's the orientation of the washer when you go back together, just like that. Now we're ready to go over on the bench and get to work. So we got the clutches over here on the bench, and now we're going to go ahead and install the KMS Duners kit for the X3, part of the 91 Octane power package. So first item on the order is getting into this primary clutch. So because we're going to be installing a new primary spring, we're actually going to just go ahead and split this clutch, which requires some specialty tools. So what you'll do first is install a puller. Clutch splitting tool. Okay. I'm going to use a wrench to stabilize the puller so the puller doesn't spin. And then I'm going to impact the bolt from the top. Okay. Can-Am actually did like a double taper on the primary clutch, and that's why you need this tool. All right, so when you remove this cap assembly, got to be careful because the pucks are going to want to fall out. So slow it goes. You put it over there. See, pucks are falling out. So we want to make sure that when you remove this, you just have your work area really nice and neat and place it along the side. Now, at this point, I can remove this piece. And this spring right here goes underneath right here. But while we're here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the center bearing. Now, the center bearing is going to have a plastic washer on the top and a plastic washer on the bottom. We want to make sure those are in good order. Washers are in good order. Also, we want to take a look and make sure that inside the bearing has got plenty of grease, which it does. If not, add a little bit of grease. So that's looking good. And rotation is good. So this part is ready for installation. Now we're going to go ahead and compress this down and remove this cap and replace the spring. Okay, and these are 30 Torx bit, so T30. Okay, I'm going to remove this piece just to kind of show you guys what's going on here. So we have the primary spring, which sits right here. Now also we want to be taking a look at this piece because there's a bushing right there. We want to make sure the bushing's in good shape, and this piece is moving like it should, just nice and freely. It'll be a little bit loose, which is okay. We just want to make sure that there's no binding. Okay, that piece is checking good, so now we're ready to go ahead, install the new spring, and put the cap back on. Okay, I'm torquing these down to 10 foot-pounds. Center spring is done. Now we're going for the weights. T25, 8mm socket. Notice on this clutch, we've left two factory weights opposed from each other at that point, and we're going to install the KMS weights here and here to keep the system balanced. So we got the KMS weights installed, we got the primary spring installed. Now we're going to go ahead, reassemble the primary clutch, move on to the secondary. So just want to show you a couple little things. So here, we made sure our bearing was good. So we're going to slide this piece down. All right. And now on our governor cap, we got the pucks that fell out. So on these pucks, they have O-rings on the back side of them. Okay. And you can see where the puck has been riding up and down. We want to keep that side the same. And this is the part that's been supported from the back side. So the O-rings, they only have O-rings on one side. All right, so Just put the O-ring where there's a groove and put that in. And a little tech tip here is I just kind of start installing it so the puck doesn't go anywhere, right? And then I'll move to my next missing puck, which is here, okay? And as we can see, the O-ring is still in there. So I'm going to make sure I got the proper side. Install my puck. And slide that back in. A little bit more. There we go. Okay, and rotating around. Okay, missing puck right there. O-ring. Make sure we get the orientation of the puck proper. Okay, and I'll slide it up just enough to expose the hole and get the puck in place. Perfect. And now, before I push it all the way down, I just verify that every position's got a puck. And we are good. So now I'm ready to just slide this back into place. Now, when we took this apart, we had to break the center taper. You can, at this point, just go ahead and put the primary on and torque it down, and both tapers will actually be re-engaged. However, I find it a little bit easier, because right now this thing's all loosey-goosey, is to actually go back and use the compression tool to just get the center taper locked down. And now the center taper is re-engaged. It just makes it easier to handle the clutch. Secondary clutch. So, a couple things we need to note for, and I'm a huge fan of Sharpies. I'm going to come in here, there's an arrow, right? And I'm just going to index some stuff, you know. And then, hey, look at that, there's another arrow, right? And then, oh, look at that, there's another arrow. Okay, so we want to make sure that in the end that these arrows are lined up. And using a Sharpie just gives you a little bit better line of sight. So no matter what angle this clutch is at, we can see where we need to be. Install it down. Okay, 13mm socket. Okay, right when you get to here, the torsional spring is going to want to release. So we just let it do it. Okay. So from the factory, they run this torsional spring, okay, and they have index holes here, and they also have an index hole right there, okay. And what this allows for is it allows you to preload the spring, right? So you would basically put this in an index hole here, put the helix over here, and then you can tighten this, all right? And what that does is that actually gives, it lets you adjust the base preload of the spring, okay? What we found is that this system right here is causing the belts to just build excessive heat over time, okay? The belt's really not given a chance to take a break, if you would, you know? So whether you're accelerating or decelerating, it's plowing heat back into this belt, okay? And you can see that to where the roller is just riding continuously on the acceleration ramp, but there's really nothing happening on the decel ramp, okay? Going over to a non-torsional spring, which is this, allows this helix to free float. And when that does, it's going to give the belt a chance to cool off when you're on decel. All right, and you know, it's just a system that we found on the X3s that works really, really good and keeps belts living for a very long time. So we're going to go ahead and install this spring now. We're still going to be using the same plastic cup. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the helix down first. Okay, we're going to install our spring, install a little plastic cup. All right, now remember before we were marked crazy, so this is, look at that, check it, I love it. We can see where we're at. Okay. Same thing, same rules apply here. You know, we got marks all over the place, which just makes it real easy. So now, we come down, make sure the plastic cup is sitting properly, and we get our lines where they need to be. Now, we would definitely want to make sure that these rollers, we don't crush these rollers going into this helix here. So we want to provide adequate clearance. Okay, so right there, as this was coming down, that center collar was going into the bushing on the other sheet, or actually the helix itself. So you got to make sure that those two pieces are lined up and don't force it. So what I did was I kind of just moved the clutch around a little bit, backed it up, tightened it back down, and just when they slide together, that's what you're looking for. Now we got fluid movement. At this point, we want to start looking our holes up here. We can't see our helix. You know, we want to be able to see our helix. So we can rotate the pieces so we can see our helix. Okay, so now that we're at that point, we can go ahead and thread in the hardware so it just keeps in a line. Just a little bit, a couple threads. Okay. All right. Final torque on these bad boys is 35 foot-pounds. Okay, so secondary clutch is done, primary clutch is done, and now we're going to go ahead, put it back on the X3, and before we do the ECU tune, we're going to see what just the clutch does on this car. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead, we've installed the clutch kit, we're going to put the clutches back on. Tech tips, easy ways to do this. So, I will slide in the primary first. Kind of let it hang out. It ain't gonna go anywhere. And now we're gonna put the secondary on. So when I go to put this secondary on, that transmission shaft is spinning and it's not allowing me to line the splines back up. So what I'll do is I'll quickly put the car in gear, and it lets me do that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and install this bolt for the secondary. This guy gets 35 foot-pounds. Now we're ready for the belt. So, regardless of what belt you're installing, I highly recommend this G-Boost. This is the Badass belt from G-Boost. Works really, really good on these X3s. But you want to install them so you can read the letter. Okay? So, I'll do, just kind of let that hang out just for a second. Put the car in neutral. And I'll slide the sheaves together like this. So, primary and secondary sheaves slid together like that. You put your belt on just like that. And then, boom, you put it on like that. Now sometimes if you're doing a new belt, you're gonna have to compress this down just a smidge to get the brand new belt on, but the belt's got some time on it, you'll be able to just anchor it down like that. So now we install the primary bolt. All right, so primary bolt, 80 foot-pounds. Now we get the clutches back on. Let's go ahead, let's give this car a whirl on the dyno before we do the ECU tune and see what kind of power it lays down. Okay, so we did the clutch tune. Let's check the results here. All right, so we went from 143, went from 143 horsepower to 160 horsepower, okay? And the power actually came on a lot smoother, a lot cleaner, and definitely out of the hole, okay? We still have this air-fuel dilemma that we're dealing with. This is just the factory file. However, look at the RPM spectrums. You know, we're definitely a little bit shy of where we want to be because the clutch kit that we put in here is actually designed to go with our power package, so a little bit heavier for this car. However, even then, it's still just a dramatic improvement overall, definitely horsepower-wise, and definitely 0 to hero for this car. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead, we're going to flash this ECU, and we're going to show you what the results are looking like. So now we're going to go ahead and install the ECU tune. All right, so we provide our ECU tunes on the Power Visions. Okay, really, really nifty device above and beyond just flashing your car. But we're just going to go through the real basics here. So 2018, you're going to find your service connector under the glove compartment, just the lid right here. On 2019 and newer, you're going to find it up in here. Okay, so 2018. Okay, so install your key. Just bump the start button. We don't want to start the car, we just want to hit the start button real quick. And this is what's going to come up. All right, so we're going to press select to tune it. We can see here's the 91 octane KMS tune. We're going to hit the button to flash it. It's going to give us a brief description of the file. We're going to hit this button again to flash it. It's going to say not paired. That means this device is not married to this vehicle yet, but we want it to be married, so we're going to go ahead and press that button again. File cleanup, that'll clean up all the other files of different software compats for this year, make, and model. So we'll go ahead and we'll clean up the files, and then we'll press this button one more time, and it's going to go ahead and begin the tuning process. This will take about 7 to 8 minutes, so we're just going to let it marinate, and while it's marinating, we're going to go ahead and adjust the wastegate actuator. So, wastegate's right behind this. If it's a 4-seater, it's going to be way, way in the back. But let's go ahead and remove this guy. Okay, just got 2 little rubber grommets, right there, right there, right there, right there. And then these are just hinge tabs down below. And here is the turbo wastegate actuator. Okay, So for this tune, we're recommending that we increase the preload of this arm by 5 full turns. Okay, so step 1 is just loosen up the jam nut. They're going to have a little bit of Loctite on them, so. Okay, now over here there's a little E-clip, or not E-clip, but just a spring clip. Okay, and you pull this little ear up and push it down to get rid of it. It's still a little hot from running, so I'm going to use a little towel to do it. Okay, got the E-clip off. Remove this, and 5 full turns. 1 full turn. 2 full turns. 3, 4, 5. And retighten your lock nut. Okay, so now it says it's flash complete. At the very end of this, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to power the car down. So pull the key all the way out. And what you're waiting for is you're waiting for the dash to just completely power down. When in doubt, 45 seconds. However, as soon as the dash lights go out, the car will be ready for use with the new tune. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my service connector back to where it belongs and put this down. And we have our wastegate adjusted. We get the ECU tune in this car. I say, let's burn some tires. Okay, so let's look at these results. You got 182 horsepower, 91 octane, ECU tune, clutch tune only. This car still has a stock exhaust system on it, stock cat on it. Really good results. We started off with 143, and then we moved over to our clutch tune, which ended up being 160. And then clutch tune combo with the ECU tune, we're at 182 horsepower to the tires. So it was really fun with spending some time with you guys on this video. Thanks again. Have a great day.